Mr. XABI Alonso of Bayern Leverkusen, this is another huge story, has announced he did what I never thought he would. XABI Alonso has decided to stay. He's talked about it openly now. It's confirmed in Bayern Leverkusen. Maybe I'll give you the start this time. Why is it a bad move? Because we've talked about this before, and I'll go why it's a good move for XABI to you guys. It's because the story is Real Madrid and Liverpool, and XABI decided to turn it down. Why is that a bad move?
Well, if you're going to take the stance of why is it a bad move, for starters, the Leverkusen job, all right, they're doing really well now under him with some great players like Florian Wirtz. But then you've got people like Jeremy Frimpong, who's been one of the best players this season. He's being linked with moves away to places like even like Manchester United, who are in a much worse position, but they've got the money to attract someone like that. You know, Granit Xhaka, I think he was linked elsewhere. Boniface, the striker, who's been linked to Premier League.
Even the centre backs like Ta as well are
Jonathan Tah's been linked away. So that's the thing. It's like, yeah, they've got this really good team that's playing really well under XABI Alonso. And I know Florian Wirtz has come out and basically confirmed he's staying another year himself. Mm-hmm. But you always have the worry that these other players might decide to cash in on their really good form and go to one of these big contracts abroad. So you could lose good players, and Leverkusen don't have the money to buy the biggest names to replace them. So they have to take the chance on talent that they see, which might not work out, which then means you do worse off next season. Maybe you lose the title to Bayern again because they regroup and, you know, you lose like a Frimpong and a Tar, for example. So there's always the risk of you losing good players. Whilst you look at the budgets that you would have had at Bayern Munich and Liverpool. Liverpool might win the title under Jurgen Klopp now, so they have a title potential winning side, which you're going to have big money to, which you can add players to. Bayern Munich maybe having a down year, but you've got Kane, he's got a record-breaking first season for them, and they've got a huge budget, and there's talent there that isn't performing to a level that they should be, that if Alonso is a top coach, which he could be, will bring back out of them. So it could be a bad move in the sense that with Bayern Munich and Liverpool, the two main teams he's linked to, you've got bigger budgets, you're less likely to lose good players, and, you know, it's easier to build long-term at a club like that than it would be at Leverkusen.
I don't think anything you said I could even possibly argue with as far as just, you know, making good sense and making a good career choice. He can control what he does, but he can't control what the other players do. I guess my question to you after that is, do you think he's pretty sure those guys are staying? Is it possible they've all talked? Let's keep this going. Let's take this in the Champions League. I'll stay if you stay type of thing, maybe a handshake deal. Is it because, you know, XABI's not a dopey guy. I think he understands, like, stepping in Jurgen Klopp's shoes is not enviable. I don't know. It's not a. He wasn't like they don't win the league next year. He wasn't as good as we thought he was, and it's just that simple, that quick. And maybe even people up in Liverpool management, you put a guy in here that wasn't that experienced. He just had one fluke season, and you threw him in. You know, you can avoid all that by staying there. And I really don't, even if they finish up in second or fourth place, I don't think he loses that much clout, so to speak, to be able to coach. Do you think he's taken these guys aside and said, look, you want to do this next year, stick around, and I'll promise you I'll stay too? Is that possible, or is that even realistic?
Oh, I think, yeah, definitely that is something. Like with Wirtz coming out and saying he's going to stay, there definitely would have been talks, I reckon, potentially, especially with so many questions about XABI Alonso's future. Some of those players are going to have wanted to know his position, because, like, let's say Alonso's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to take the Bayern Munich job. If you're like a Jeremy Frimpong, maybe you're thinking, well, the coach is leaving, maybe I should take my chance to leave. So I think, yeah, there certainly would have been some conversations with players where they want to know his stance so they can sort of plan their future as well. So certainly.
And that leads into what I'm saying, that what I think is the right reason to stay is because you can go to Liverpool and win, and it's been done before. And you certainly can go to the team that won the most Champions Leagues in Real Madrid. That's been done before. And you'll be a legend. But if you care about being a legend of a different order, doing something completely unique and completely different. I mean, the argument you made is they don't have the money to bring players in. There's a possibility to build a new European giant over here, and you don't get these opportunities. Opportunities like that are even more rare than being able to coach at Liverpool or Real Madrid or any of the big five top teams. This is huge, absolutely huge. If like I said, I can't argue with anything you're saying, but I got to be honest, it's a lot more tempting for me to separate myself or have the opportunity to separate myself, and especially being young as he is. What is he, only 42 years old? He didn't retire all that long ago. You could be in a class of your own. And then we're talking about, maybe 10 years from now, and Leverkusen's won 7 out of the last 10 years of the Bundesliga and had deep runs or a Champions League victory. He's now Leverkusen doesn't have the problem of not being able to attract players, because now they're going to come over and they might be commanding the money. This is a chance to make a new European giant. I think much the way, although they were definitely a big club with Klopp and Dortmund. I mean, there are some similarities there. But I think when Klopp won the Champions League in Dortmund, they were much more solidified as a top European giant than they were in even 2005, 1995, 1985. It wasn't until after Klopp got there that they were, how many Champions League did they win prior to that? I think it was 0, right? Dortmund.
They didn't win one with Klopp. He got to the final.
Oh, that's right. He got to the final. I apologize. And then he went to Liverpool. Okay, I actually.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. But they did one. They won one. They won one right afterwards, correct? Or they never won one.
Dortmund never did. No, I think they won one in the 90s. But
then I got it confused.
They made the final. They made the final under Klopp.
That's it. That's right. They made the final.
Which is impressive enough as
it is. Sure. And that's probably what got his tickets to Liverpool. I'm getting my years and my stuff. But I mean, my point. Even though I completely bottled that, but my point is the same. My point doesn't change at all. And Lop did. I think Dortmund's a much bigger team than they were 20 years ago. I think that's fair to say, and I think that's because Klopp's leadership and his success, minus the Champions League. But you could do that with the Leverkusen. You could make them a top. I mean. Like this story itself, if there's somebody able to put this sort of mini treble, for lack of a better word, now you got, football fans are, especially kids, they're like people my son's age, they see Leverkusen and they're winning. That's a team they connect with. That's a team they're going to follow. And I think if this thing happens, they could put themselves in potentially be, a power broker, because look at United. They got all the money in the world. And they're not going to attract anybody. Where would you go right now if you could start? If you're a young player, I'd rather play for Leverkusen than United right now. I can't believe I'm saying that. I would rather play for Leverkusen than Chelsea. Yeah. If I want to go to England, I want to go to Liverpool. I want to go to Man City, Arsenal, stuff like that. The teams that we're used to winning all the time are kind of out of the running. I think this would be an opportunity for Leverkusen to kind of jump to that next level in Europe. And maybe permanently put yourself there. I think that's a lot cooler than winning another championship from a very decorated club. I think that's the right reason to go. I think that's the yes reason to go. But it really, I guess it depends on what's important to you. And XABI's won it all as a player. Maybe it's not that important to him to do what so many other coaches have done before. It's definitely a way to separate himself. Would you agree? It
would be if he can pull it off. And that is a huge if. Yeah. Like, no matter how good he is as a coach. Yeah, like, obviously, Dortmund became big under Klopp, especially, obviously, bigger than they were before.
Sure.
But you're seeing that influence wane already now. Like, sure. We're talking about Leverkusen potentially win the title. It was Leipzig a couple of years ago who were almost winning it. Mm. Yeah, Dortmund came very close last season, but how many people actually remember that?
Mm.
Like, their influence is waning now that Klopp is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, all right, yeah, he might be able to build Leverkusen up temporarily, but will it be a lasting legacy? Or will it just be, time that XABI was there, they were good?
How many times, though, the reason I disagree with that, how many times has Dortmund blown it over the past 5-6 years since Klopp left? And they had the league wrapped up a few times, and they blew it. So, that's not Klopp's fault. That's I mean, that's the players dropping the ball. You know, I mean, so I mean, I think it's almost a freak that they didn't close a deal on a league since then. It's almost bizarre, you know, that they weren't able to close it. It's almost like the law, like they defied the law of averages. I'm sure they didn't, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. I don't know. I think it's a lot cooler if he goes. Much cooler if he goes. Stays. Much cooler if he stays.
I definitely agree with the decision to stay. Like, I think that is the right choice, especially now, because if you're good enough, then it doesn't matter that he's turned down these big jobs now. If he's good enough, he'll get those big jobs in the future.
You know, he could go to. I mean, you got a lot more pressure in for a young coach, an inexperienced coach. There's a lot more pressure going to Liverpool and Real Madrid than there would be in Leverkusen. Leverkusen is just happy to have him. Just happy to have him. But I got to be honest with you. If you're right, and you know a good 3 of these players that are so important to this team ditch, it probably wasn't worth it. And then I'm 100% wrong. But if you could if those guys could assure you that let's we built this team, we're going to the Champions League next year. Let's do this together. Then I think it's the right move, and it's just as big a gamble as assuming he has the players, because at times this team does look like a Champions League team, and they certainly can dig themselves out of a hole. They could be improved. That's another thing. They could be improved next year with some good transfers and some wonderful stuff, or maybe getting contributions from guys that you don't expect to give contributions. So I really like the move. I think it's a ballsy move, and assuming that some of those players stay.